Welcome to Madrid Reviews. This is your host, Christian Madrid, and on today's video, we're going to be talking about 28 years later, Bone Temple. Let's get to the review now, yo. Alright, y'all, let's get into this. So, I just saw the new 28 years later film, Bone Temple, and I thought it was really good. That was very good, actually. I like the different kind of approach this movie takes from the previous film, as it makes me excited for the next film in the franchise, especially, how this one does set up the next film. Nia DaCosta did a fantastic job directing this movie, as she knew the assignment and succeeded, and giving us a great sequel. The writing is amazing in this film, as the story is great and follows the aftermath of the previous film and focuses on both Spike and Dr. Ian's separate journeys, and they tie in, towards the end, of course. Yeah, I won't give any spoilers, spoiler free. I like the character driven approach, this movie takes. It makes me care more about these characters and more interested in them, there's a little less action and horror in this film, but the drama is enough to keep me entertained, and the horror scenes that this film does provide, there is, some gory ones, they're pretty good, they're great. There's also some surprisingly funny scenes in this movie, and it doesn't fail to entertain me, and a killer third act that sets up perfectly the next film. Oh my gosh, there's a scene in the third act that's pretty funny, If you know, you gotta see it though, you gotta see it. The acting is great in this movie, as Ralph Fiennes. He gives a phenomenal performance. Jack O'Connor also gives a great performance too, and the rest of the cast is really good as well. There's also, cinematography that is impressive in this film. It's beautifully shot, and even with the types of cameras they're using for this film, it looks amazing. There's also, great production design, it looks stellar. The visual effects have a good mixture of CGI and practical effects. Soundtrack is great in a strange and odd way. There's a lot of bangers in this movie. The sound design adds creepiness to the film as well. The editing, it's a bit slow at times, especially that first half. It's a little rough to get through, I'm not gonna lie. But, as the movie progresses, the pace progresses, and it's a reasonable runtime, it's under 2 hours, my kind of movie. Overall, 28 years later, Bone Temple was a great film, and I don't think it's as good as the previous film, 28 years later, but it's still a solid sequel, and I recommend checking this out in theaters. I'm giving Bone Temple a B plus, really good watching this movie, in and out, Chick-fil-A, Raising Cane's, type shit. Alright, y'all, so that is the end of the video. Don't forget to hit that like button, comment on whether you have seen 28 years later Bone Temple or excited to see it. And if you've seen it, let me know your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button alerts to know when I drop a new review. Appreciate you all for watching. See you on the next one. Have a good morning, afternoon, or night, whatever time you're watching. Thank you so much for taking the time in a very busy day to watch me talk about movies. Thank you. Bye-bye.